So today we will be touching on a little bit about what is going to happen in the next 6 months to come, because right now we are at the mid of 2026. So many things have actually passed in the past 6 months, right? Many new launches, some of which has sold out quite a fair bit. So we will be touching on what has happened in the previous 2 quarters. And of course, more importantly, I think for viewers out there, is also to understand what is going to happen in the next 6 months to come.
We will be analyzing what has already happened. We will be looking forward to share with you all what is actually coming up.
Yep. It's important for us to know these two particular words, because these two words will actually make a huge difference in your property decision. One of which, of course, we have to know is lagging. The word lagging, to understand what actually happened in the past, what are some of the indicators whereby using such indicators we can actually look forward to what is actually upcoming. And of course, we have the leading indicators, whereby the leading indicators will more or less influence the kind of prices that we are looking at in terms of property context. So for today, we will be touching mainly on this indicator known as the land sales. So what has happened in previous launches, what are the land bid price purchase, and what are the future land bid price that is upcoming that can actually shape the whole property market.
Yep. So we are looking at like the analogy of a bakery. So example today, ingredients that are used to bake a cake include like flour, butter, eggs, sugar. Today, if all these ingredients, the price would actually increase, then what would you think would happen to the price of cakes?
Naturally, as with all ingredients increasing, which means the price tag of the end product will naturally also increase.
Yep. And that is also how we relate it to the land cost. Whatever price that the developer pays for the land is actually pegged towards the price. And when land cost goes up, then naturally development costs also would have to go up. So developer would actually have to price accordingly based on the land price.
Yep, which is why it's also important to first understand why land bid prices or land cost is important in today's video that we're going to share, because we will largely be touching on some of the news article as well.
So Singapore is segmented into 3 main regions. So we have the core central region, which is the prime areas. And then we have got the RCR, rest of central region. And then we have got our OCR, which is the outskirts, the mass market products.
So let's look into the lagging indicators of what has happened previously. So what has happened in the past 6 to 9 months, we have seen projects that actually sold out on first day of launch, such as Scarier Holland, which was 99% take-up rate. The developer actually bidded was at 1,285 per square feet back then. And on the selling day, the average selling price of the units in Scarier Holland was hovering around 2,953 PSF.
And they were actually like 90% sold on launch day.
So if we look into City Fringe, which was 97% take-up rate, the land cost when it was bidded was at 1,154 PSF. And on average, when it was sold on launch day, we are looking at 2,008 PSF. Last but not least, we have the outside of central region. We take Faber Residence, for example. There is an 86% take-up rate. The land cost back then was bidded at 900 PSF. And in terms of selling price, the average PSF was at 2,001 PSF. So why are all these important? It's because it also shows us what is coming up ahead. This is when we will be touching on what is upcoming in terms of the leading indicators through land cost. So on the top here, you will see that we have actually categorized what I have shared earlier on in terms of Scarier Holland, Penrith, and Fable, one development for each region. But in today's context, if we look at what is upcoming for the outside central region zones, right, there is actually 3 projects that is upcoming. And you will notice that outside of central region zone, which previously was bidded at around 900 PSF, averagely sold at 2,001. But right now, prices seems to have increased because the developer has bidded the outside of central region zone at higher price of 1,001, 2,003.
So to put things into perspective, the CCR, which is the prime areas of Singapore, Scarier Holland, the land cost was actually 1,285 PSF, and they sold at an average of 2,009. Land cost in the OCR now has reached like above 1,003, which is more than the land cost of Scarier Holland. So how much would you think the developer would actually have to sell for?
Naturally, based on how we see things is, if we take this for example, 1,003 close to, it was already sold at 2,009. Except for now, at this time, if OCR is purchasing land bids at 1,003, there is a high chance that we might also be looking at 2,009 or 3,000 as an average selling price. But just that right now we are buying into the OCR regions such as Hougang, Bedok, as well as Chuan Grove, which is in the Serangoon area. Now we next look into another examples of rest of Central region, which is in the RCR. So RCR land bid price back then was in the last 6 to 9 months time. We have Penry for example, it was 1,001 PSF, and the average selling price on launch day was at 2,008 PSF. But if we look into the current land bids that was sold for the RCR region, we have 1,004 and up to 1,005 in places such as Kallang, Tanjong Rhu, Danyan Road,
and Dover.
Dover as well.
So again, we pack it back to the CCR land cost, which happened 6 to 9 months earlier. Again, we can see that it is higher than the CCR land cost. So, I mean, judging by what has already happened, based on the land cost, they probably would need to sell minimally 2009.
Yeah, minimally 2009, or because after all it's still in the city fringe area, we are probably expecting it at higher, because just now with the OCR region, we are already expecting at 2009. So with rest of Central region, I would assume that there is a good chance that we might even hit like a 3,002, for example. Yeah. So last but not least, we have our prime areas, which is in the Central region zone. Land bids of Holland area is at 1,004. Land bids of Newton has already hit 1,008. So again, developer has already bought land at 1,008. So how much do you think that the launch day price is gonna be hovering around, right? So all these future launches is coming out in the next 6 to 12 months time, which generally translate into a higher land cost. Very high chance that the developer, in order for them to break even and profit from the units itself, they have to sell higher than whatever is already been launched, because Sky at Holland has already hit 2,009 at a land bid of 1,002. If today the land bid is 1,008, how much is it gonna be, right?
Guessing that they probably have to launch like 3,005 and above.
Yeah, for a Newton area, we won't be surprised as well. Yeah, we actually tabulated this graph over here so that you all get a better outlook of how things are going to pan out in the next 6 to 12 months. Just to summarize, in CCR, which is the prime area, is actually in orange colors. The one in purple, we are looking at the rest of city fringe area. And of course, in the blue, we have outside of Central region. So if we recall from the earlier news article, Sky at Holland, land bid was 1,002. On launch day was 2,950 PSF. And for Fable, average selling price was at 2,001 PSF, and width at 2,008 PSF. Now, why are we mentioning that there is a potential 30% of a price increment? Is because if we were to look into how in the outside of Central region zone, the OCR area, we are looking at 1,000 PSF already when the land bid was purchased at. But then, if you look into the next 6 to 12 months time, we are potentially hitting 1,003 PSF of land bid. Then can I say that there is actually a very good chance for a developer to start the pricing from what? A 2,009 to a 3,000 PSF. So not only that for OCR regions, if you were to look into the regions of city fringe, right, Penrith and all these previously was at 1,001, now we are looking at 1,004 to 1,005. Isn't this a 30% price hike? Likewise, of course, for the core Central region, we have Newton, and previously River Green and River Modern also in the Central region was at 1,003 to 1,004, and now developer has already bought a new piece of land at 1,008 PSF. In the next 6 to 12 months time, down the road, we will be actually experiencing new launches out in the market, hitting a new all-time high. So there might be a shift in terms of the market. There will be a new benchmark.
Cost of the land cost.
Yeah. So all these has happened already, and all these are what we call the lagging indicators, because all this has already been transacted. But in the future, we know that these are the upcoming new launches that is up ahead in the next 6 to 12 months time, which is why we are saying that all these are leading indicators. But how does this translate into price?
So let's say today there's a buyer out there with a 1.5 million budget. Actually, what can this buyer buy in today's market? Or a new launch? We are probably looking at 2 bit. Well, we are still able to find something at 2 bit. So what happens when this 30% price hike comes with the same amount of budget, let's say 1.5 or so? We could possibly still get a 2-bed 2-bath in the new launch market. But that is if we are actually very lucky and get a good ballot number. Yes, because new launch is about balloting.
Yeah.
If not, can I say that actually with this 30% price hike, there's a good chance that if we do not get a good ballot number, we would have to settle for probably
A two-bed, one bath.
So right over here, you might be thinking that, okay, I mean, there's no harm waiting, right? There's no harm waiting and then
And
trying
also
out.
try different new launches as well.
Or if not, at the most, I'll just go back to the resale market.
Yep.
So let's look back at the resale market. So with a 1.5 million budget, should this buyer actually wait out within the next 6 to 12 months? What we will likely see is the resale market, can we all agree that it also actually moves up in tandem with the new launch market? Primarily because the buyers with a similar budget of 1.5 million, they likely would also have been priced out from the new launch market, and they would also fall back towards the resale market. With this spillover effect from the new launch market, we will expect that the resale market would actually also move up in price. So with the same 1.5 million budget in the next 6 to 12 months, even in the resale market, we will likely be considering a 2-bed 2-bath, being priced out of a 3-bed 2-bath. So essentially what we are saying now is we have got these 4 options, 4 positions that we can actually choose from. And if you are a buyer today, which option would you like to be in? I'm sure you probably prefer to be in option 1 or option 2.
Because why? Because then your options are wider. You have a lot more alternatives in terms of choosing of units. So instead of waiting out, right, whereby there is a good chance because of the price hike in the next 6 to 12 months time, unless the budget is going to increase or unless the affordability is going to be there, right? If not, there is a good chance that the units or the options that is available might shrink due to price movement that will happen in the market.
Or we will probably need to consider like an older development with the same amount of budget.
Correct. So if possible, it would be great that if buyers out there, if they are thinking of doing something, then consider to do something now rather than waiting out. Usually buyers would like to wait and hold and see how things is. So we have this very simple case study that we have actually done up, which was a development that is 2 owners. So they are actually side-by-side owners. One is at Unit 10, one is at Unit 11. Both of them are actually neighbors. So the owner at Unit 10, which is over here, he actually purchased a 3-bedder during in 2019 at a price of 1.3 mil. So after 3 years, his neighbor come in and purchased right next door to him, and the purchase price was higher at 1.6 mil. So almost $300,000 higher than what his next door neighbor at level 10 is actually paying for. But does he get a better view? So you would notice that the one that bought earlier bought the pool view. What about the neighbor who actually bought at a later date at a higher price where he or she is actually viewing is actually where the bin center is.
AC.
Yeah. Not the best view, I would say.
And you're paying more.
Yeah, so the issues is by holding up, there is a good chance that you will be paying more, paying for a view that is less desirable. And
actually, if we look at the estimated profits, right, you can actually see that the owner who actually bought earlier in 2019 has got like paper gains of 500,000.
yeah,
Whereas the owner who bought later paid more for a not as good facing, about half.
so just by holding out, yes, perhaps your affordability might have increased in the 3 years' time. You have actually built out your capital and what's not. But what we're trying to say is if today's affordability allow you to get something already, it will be good to go into your calculations and see what is available in the market. Because rather than compromising and then going into something like such whereby it may not be the best in terms of when you need to exit later. In terms of options wise, there is always some resale units to fall back on, which we agree as well. So what are some of the challenges that resale owner might need to face as well? So we're using the same example of how in 2026, if the budget is a 1.5 mil for a 3-bedder, for example, the earliest time whereby this resale owner who purchased a 1.5 mil 3-bedder can exit, I would say, is somewhere in 2030, right? Yeah, after holding on for 4 years, how much do you think at 2030 a resale owner will want to sell?
Buying today 1.5, probably 1.8.
1.8. Okay, so that will mix the profit for a resale owner. He or she will be looking at 300K, right? So one of the challenge that most resale buyer will face is, right, if today they want to list their unit out for sale, right, they will be also not be the only one that will be selling. I'm pretty sure there will be other units out there that is listed on the portal
And
for
actually,
sale as well. And
all the
who are-
neighbors
yeah.
actually be selling all around the same price.
So I would say the neighbors I would say most of them are actually what? First owners, right?
There's a good chance that most of them are still first owners.
And first owners who purchase a private back then, how much do you think they purchase at?
Probably purchase at 1.1.
1.1 to 1.2.
Okay.
Okay, fair enough. So the biggest challenge right now, how we see things is, right, if you were to put out your listing for a 1.8, chances are the first owner will also want to list at 1.8.
Yeah.
But then, what if there is this situation whereby in 2030, the market, if it's not as good as today in 2026, and there is just this one owner, for example, who really needed the cash from the proceeds of selling his home, can they also let go at 1.5, for example?
I mean, for whatever reasons that the owners might be selling for, it could be like a rushed sale.
Yeah.
And they want to be the first that move. So they can actually, as a first owner that bought at 1.1, 1.2, they actually don't have to sell at 1.8.
Because why? Even if they sell at 1.5, which is the price that you purchased from, right, chances are the owners are also getting 300 to 400k profits. Because how we see things is, right, you purchase at 1.5, in order to break even, right, you probably will need to sell minimally at a 1.6 to 1.65 mil, because you need to factor in your stamp duties, the cost of holding, your reno, etc. Right? So all this, in order to break even, you are probably looking at 1.65 mil. So the question now comes to, right, the first owner can actually let go at 1.65 or even below that. Then do you think you are still able to sell at 1.65 or 1.8? Chances are it might be a lot more challenging, right? Because if the transaction for 1.5 mil does go through in any one of the first owner, right, it will be reflected on the listing portals itself that there is this last transaction over there at 1.5.
And that will cause some resistance towards the future prospective buyers.
Chances are your future buyer may want to negotiate further from the price that you are listing at, whether it's 1.8 or 1.65 mil, because if there is a last transaction of 1.5 mil, it's very hard for the next buyer to pay $150,000 more, let's say, not just because of the transacted prices that is being reflected, also because of this thing known as the bank valuation.
So when there's a lower transaction and you are trying to sell at a bit higher than the last transacted, actually the bank may not match the valuation.
Yeah, so in terms of resale, how we see things is there would be this potential challenge that will definitely always be there. And this is something that we also want to inform all of our clients to let them know prehand that there is such a challenge that you might need to undertake in order to go into a resale.
Of course, we are not saying that this would definitely happen.
Yeah.
All sellers want to sell as high as possible. That's very natural. And if they are able to sell at 1.8, they will definitely sell at 1.8.
Yeah.
But what we are saying today is there a chance? What if there is that one owner that actually needs to sell for whatever reason and sells at 1.5, 1.6 because they are the first owners, they are not making any losses. Then when it is our turn to sell at 1.8, that is when we are actually faced with the challenge.
So given a choice today, would you want to be in position B, whereby you are the resale owner going into a resale unit? Or given a choice, if affordability allow, would you want to consider being in the first position instead, whereby you are actually the first owner of this project on state? So moving aside affordability and all, I think most people would rather be in the first position, right?
But right over here, we're actually not saying that one is better than the other. We are not saying that resale is better, or we are not saying that new launch is better.
Yep.
We are just here really just to explain the different scenarios that buyers find themselves in.
Yeah. So of course, we're not saying that new launch all can buy also, because there are new launch out there that don't make money as well. I think we all have to agree that new launch today are at all-time high price, whereby, it's not as affordable as before. How then do we determine the risk of going to a new launch?
I think we agree also that new launch is expensive, because today when we have this property, we can call it property A in the resale market, it is actually selling, let's say, at 2,000 per square foot. At a neighboring new launch, we call it property B, they'll be selling at 2,000, let's say 8 per square foot. So in this scenario, with this $800 price gap, the new launch definitely is expensive.
Yeah.
And the resale is the more affordable option.
Correct, because it's opportunity over the 800 PSF. I would rather go for a resale. I would think most people also prefer
the safer and the more affordable option.
Yeah.
But actually, in today's market, we actually have this property C, which also is a new development that we can buy, that is actually going for between 2,000 to 2,002 per square foot. Now with these three, property A, B, and C, which one then would be less risk? I'm sure we can all agree that if there is a new development going at around the same price of a resale, then we can say that C actually has got lesser risk.
Now, our job today is really to share with you. Each has got its own pros and cons. There are risks in terms of whether you are going to a resale today or whether it's a new launch today, especially with such high prices. Our due diligence to also show you that there are other options and alternatives and opportunities outside that is worth considering, because today you are putting in what, $1 million or 2 million down onto a home. So you really need to know what are all your options out there before really deciding, coming to a conclusion.
So let's take a look at what are the opportunities available today. We can actually see here that there is a property available, a two-bedder at 2,070 per square foot. In the same development, a similar two-bedder, highest done has already been transacted at 2,050 per square foot with an average of 2,332 per square foot. So today, let's say the buyer that actually transacted at 2,050 per square foot, in future, what would be their selling price? Likely they will be calling for 2007, 2008. So with an average done of 2,332 and with an opportunity today to buy in at 2,070 per square, can I then ask, is this actually a very safe purchase? Can we in 4 to 5 years time actually just sell at 2,332 per square?
Even that within the same development, the average is already at 2003, right? So 2017 sounds very reasonable.
Yeah. So we just need to actually exit at this point at 2,332.
That's 300 PSF.
And it's already like over 200,000 in paper gains. And that is not considering that 2005 has already been done.
Yep.
And in the nearby resale market, we can actually see for a similar two-bedroom, within the past 6 months, the highest done has also touched 2,005 per square foot. And this is for the resale. So for a new two-bedroom, going at below the average of the same development, and even for the nearby resale, this is what we mean by having a safe purchase.
Yeah. So there are opportunities out there that we can still leverage on using such an example. Today, developers are still building projects that were built on a lower land cost when it was first purchased. And also with interest rate coming down from its peak, right? This actually creates a window of opportunity over here whereby buyers are actually able to still go into buying low by tapping into some opportunities that are not shared, as per what Kenneth was sharing earlier on, whereby there is still a property C out there that we can leverage and tap on, or swapping units from non-harmonized to harmonized projects, which we will share in our next few videos, or buying into better location or a more desirable attributes in terms of location, and of course upgrade to a bigger unit that offers you a lower PSF and a lower quantum. So this is what we call that we are actually at the bottom of the V shape. But if you look at the other side of the V, right, the newer lands developer are actually purchasing are at 30% more expensive already. This means that in future, right, it will be reflected in the future launch prices. Buyers who are keen to purchase new launch, if the prices are going upward, in an upward trend whereby they are being priced out, chances are they will now look into the next affordable alternative, which is what you have in the resale. So can I say that then there is a high chance that resale prices will actually move in tandem as per what new launches are? When these transactions happen, right, for resale homes, resale owners will generally have a higher bargaining power. And once this happens, it will actually create a new benchmark in terms of resale homes whereby they will set a new price for resale units.
It will also push up prices of resale also.
Correct. So instead of waiting for everything to become more certain, I think what buyers should really look into, right, is how today's affordability can actually gives you more choices than what is going down in the next 6 to 12 months time, because what we see things is using the lagging and the leading indicators, we can already so-called foresee that there is a market shift that is upcoming once transactions in the new launch starts to hit. It will cause a ripple effect in the resale, and likewise everything is just going to move in an upward trend.
Yeah. So today we are really not saying that one is actually better than the other. We are not saying that resale is better. We are not saying that new launch is better.
Yeah.
We are really just sharing all the options available to you, and all that matters really is one's affordability.
Yeah, so if you are considering looking into what's next for your property, whether is it a good time to sell, whether is it a good time to buy, please feel free to reach out to us. If not, we will see you in our next video.